Hello, welcome to our well, slightly different presentation that you might have been used to. And it's going to be a presentation of 5 game developer habits that bring software engineers to the next level. And the focus is more on the indie game developers, not necessarily the grand AAA game developers. So without further ado, let's get started, right?
Yeah, let's start to play a game. Press start.
First things first, a short introduction. This is me, Alexander Chatzizacharias. This would be my avatar for today. Same clothes, same hair, same great patches in my hair, and maybe in a couple of years the same mustache, I hope. I'm a software engineer at CGI in the Netherlands. I have a couple of hobbies like bouldering and surfing, and that would be me. And if you want to know more about me, pay close attention to the presentation. You might see some Easter eggs. And then we have the one and only...
Yeah, me would it be. Erik Pronk. I work at J-Driven, where I combine my passion to working with people with passion of technique. That was on purpose, actually. I love to run. It's one of my hobbies, and somersault is also something that I try to practice a lot.
Yeah.
But not while running. But yeah, I enjoy talking about cool things. So let's.
Yeah. All the animations for today happen with a mocap suit, by the way.
Yeah, we did everything to make our avatars look exactly as they are. And also, like Alex said, yeah, look at the game for the details and the Easter eggs to find more about what things we like, what games we love, and what music we like.
Exactly. All right. So let's get started. Oh, I think we need to switch controllers.
Oh, let's do that.
I need to be player 1, always. All right, so...
He's always the better player as well.
Yeah. So welcome to our, well, game world. Let's call it Presentopia for now, or Pennsylvania. And we have here our wonderful ghost guide, which we named...
Guide.
Very short which has, welcome presenters. I wish you luck with your presentations, thank you. But maybe before we continue, explain why we want to talk about game developer habits and what they could mean for software engineers, yes. Right? So... game development and software engineering are very much 2 sides of the same coin, right? They're very similar, but also a little bit different. And what you see is across conferences, blog posts, YouTube videos, there isn't much cross-contamination happening. They're quite separate from each other. So then I thought, well, then we thought maybe it could be cool if we try to talk about what game developers do, what habits they have, and how that could maybe help software engineers to be elevated to the next level.
Indeed, and also to make it a bit more simple, we try to create it inside a game to do a slightly different presentation. So let's move on.
Yes.
So we enter, and of course we do not have an agenda, we have a walkthrough of our session. So what we're going to look at is a quick look at the history. What has been in software development and what fun facts are in game development. So we're going to focus on that, and after that we're going to play 5 mini games with you guys. The first one will be a performance. We'll be facing to see if what effects performance have. You're looking at our game, and if the performance isn't right, then you probably have not such a good game experience as it is now. It's fairly smoothly. Then we're going to talk about agility, agile working, agile way of working, and see how flexible we can be. After that, we're talking about the full stack. What does full stack mean for software engineers? We know. What does it mean for game developers, and how can we embrace that to both sides of the coin?
Yeah.
After that, we're going to a really cool requirements puzzle, because talking about the full stack, I need to embrace a lot of more techniques while creating this game, because it's not my core development capacities. So I created some 3D models in this game, and the main one in the requirements puzzle. So we have a look at that, and very important to have fun. That's like we're doing in this game as well.
As much as this guy over here, right?
Yeah, he didn't make it to having fun.
And then a conclusion.
Yeah.
Well, before we get started, maybe a show of hands. Do we have any gamers in here?
Ooh,
that's
no,
good.
I cannot count. That's 90%.
Do we have any game developers here? Or hobbyists?
Yes.
Good. So for the hobbyists, this game is made in Unity, which is a game engine. And now we can be talking about...
let's talk about the history.
Trip down memory lane.
Trip down memory lane. We have 2 lanes. Let me start was because software.
Oh, yeah, you can go.
Okay. Because software engineering started way before game development, of course. And it all started with the invention of the binary number system with our German mathematician Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz. He introduced this to the world, and actually, it's the foundation of the things that we are working with today. So I take the next one as well?
Yeah.
For the Turing machine, one great invention by Alan Turing. Actually, it's a decision box, and how he called it, it's a human in a machine making decisions. And he wanted to know to what extent everything is computable. So that's what the Turing machine does, and still very nice to look at what in the 1930s was achieved, and looking back at what we can do now with computers.
Yeah.
Alex.
So maybe a quick, easy question. What was the first video game ever made? Pong.
Pong.
Exactly. So in 1958, Pong was created by physicist William Higginbotham. But what a lot of people don't really know is that he also worked on the first nuclear bomb, which was kind of interesting know-how for me.
Yeah, it's not a fun fact, right?
Not necessarily a fun fact. And he made it on the oscilloscope. So not a real computer or anything like that.
Why did he make it on the oscilloscope? Were there no programming language?
Was there? I don't think so.
No, 1957, the first programming language was released, and it was Fortran, the mother of all languages. Still used today, but not as widely as it back in the days. But that's the programming language where it all started with.
Any Fortran specialists? You must earn a lot of money.
Unreplaceable.
Exactly. In 1970s, I saw a 12-year leap for game development. Computer Space was released as the first arcade game for people to play on an arcade, a closet. Or you put in a nice coin and you could play a game of Computer Space. Also, now that I think about it, this was actually also the birth of microtransactions. Interesting.
Yeah, but in 1968, no microtransactions here, but also something that's very important for our industry, but for the game industry as well. DARPA created the Arpanet, which is actually the ancestor of the internet as we know it. So very influential later on in time.
Exactly. Military, right?
Military, yeah, in the US of A.
1972, Pong was released as an arcade game, so until now it was only playable on the oscilloscope, and now also playable on an arcade machine or maybe slightly personal computers.
On the Atari?
Yeah.
Anybody got one of the original Ataris with Pong here? Yes, some collectors over here. Nice.
Jealous. Do I take the next one as well?
Sure. Yeah, take the next one.
1978, Space Invaders is the first game to sell over 1 million copies on the personal computers, mostly, which officially made the game industry a multi-million-dollar business.
Yeah. Moving slightly back in time, 1971, the Kambach 1 was actually the first personal computer sold in the USA. Was sold at $750 at the time. There were 50 units ever produced, 40 were sold. It was an 8-bit computer, and nowadays the $750 that it costs would be like 5,000 if you index it to the current standards.
Why don't you take the next one?
Yeah, let me take the next one as well. 1979, the basis of the education that we know in the software engineering expertise. So the Seattle University began to offer a master degree in computer science. Computer engineering is called over there back in the day. So I think there are a lot of people out there. We have a lot of people out here who have a computer master degree in computer science or computer engineering? From Seattle?
From 1979?
That would be a great one. So you take the next one, Alex.
Yeah. So in 1983, the video game industry crushed. You might have seen this in documentaries and everything. If you go to the deserts of Arizona and dig around, you might find some ET cartridges dug around.
Great documentaries over.
Yeah, because there was a huge oversaturation of game consoles and games back then, and completely crashed. And a lot of people blame it on ET, the worst game ever made, they say. Which is very interesting to see what effect one bad game can have.
Actually, I went upstairs today and I saw E.T.
Really?
Yeah, it was somewhere with one of the boots.
Interesting.
Didn't see it?
No, I did not.
1985, huge influence also for the game development. C++ was created. Bjorn Strausstrup, a Danish guy. But also Microsoft Windows first version 1.0 was released. I don't know if there are anybody out there who actually used the first version of Windows. Anybody? I see no one. I started at 3.1. That's more a general release, but first version was from 1985. But C++.
Very important for game industry as well, because to this day game engines are mostly written in C++, right? Because of the high performance it provides. 1985 also, 8-bit consoles are born with a Nintendo in the West or the Famicom in Japan. This is also my first console I had when I was younger, with Duck Hunt, also a very cool game. And then a couple of years later, 16-bit consoles are born with Sega Mega Drive, which paved the way to more and more high-fidelity graphical games.
Yeah. Software side, 1990, the World Wide Web was born by Tim Berners-Lee was developed, and also HTTP and HTML were created, and the web browsers were born. So hugely influential on the online experience that we're currently working with and enjoying with games. But 1990 it all started.
Yeah, and as you'll see in a bit, it also influenced the game industry a lot, of course. Then maybe another quiz. Does anybody know what the first true 3D game was? True polygon-based game. Has anybody played Virtua Fighter or Virtua Racer back in the day? Exactly.
Yeah, I did.
Those were the true 3D games. What we nowadays we use polygonal rendering for games, and Virtua Racer and Virtua Fighter were the first ones to really release a commercial product based on that technique. So true 3D rendering was born with the release of those two games in 1992. And then I'll just go to one of my favorites. 1993, a year later, Doom is released, revolutionizing the game industry, not only with awesome gameplay of shooting up demons and explosions, but also with a lot of clever algorithms to long-standing problems, like, for example, the fast inverse square root algorithm, which they could use to quickly calculate how lighting falls on certain surfaces and things like that. Real time, which was very awesome.
Yeah, also back in 1991, there's also one of my favorites. Linux was created by Linus Torvald, actually the basis of a lot of applications out there running on our software as of today. But in 1991, the first release was actually released.
Yeah.
Let me take the next one. Why are we here? We are at JFall, so the first release of Java, and actually the first edition of JFall could have been in 1995. It wasn't, but it could have been, because in May 23rd, 1995, Java was born, but also 95 Ruby and JavaScript were released. So it's an influential year for why we are all here at this conference.
Yeah. Then in 1998, the Unreal Engine was created, completely revolutionized the way game developers looked at game engines. It was created for Unreal Tournament, by the way, also a very cool game. And back then, game engines were created for a game, and maybe the second installment of the game, and then they will toss around a next game that would create engine with game and everything, until 1998, where people started looking, Epic started licensing Unreal Engine to other game developers, and people saw that it could be smart to have a dedicated software engine to create games.
Yeah, we think it's smart, because if we wanted to create this presentation game for you guys without the Unity engine, that would have been impossible.
OpenGL directly, yeah, it would be awesome.
Would be awesome, but also impossible.
I'll go first.
Yeah, you go first.
Late 90s, also very dear to me. Online LAN multiplayer becomes extremely popularized. Games like StarCraft, there we go. Half-Life, Quake, there we go, good. Doom, Unreal Tournament, yeah. Hey, they start taking over the globe, right? Every Command & Conquer, anyway, everybody keeps playing those games. The people flock together to LAN parties, put the computers next to each other to play the games, and it's completely taking over the world and the entertainment industry at this point.
Yeah, I still remember picking up every stuff that I had. Huge monitor, a huge PC, going to my colleagues and setting it up again and playing a LAN game. That's nice. Yeah, 2001, the Agile Manifesto was released, so Agile software development was born, and also Scrum was born. So up to now, we had the waterfall at the front, so it's gone now in the game. So, but you don't see it anymore. So it's the agile development, the way of working was born as we know it of today.
Yeah. And then also around that time, Microsoft decided that games are very lucrative and a lot of money can be made using games. So they released the Xbox next to the Nintendo GameCube and the PlayStation 2, thus kicking off the current and still ongoing console wars. Which people might say are the longest running digital wars up.
Digital wars.
Digital wars. Yeah.
So shall I do the rise of big data? Yeah, data becoming more and more prominent in the software engineering community. The term big data was created, was released, and also data became more and more popular, more and more important in how you solve your problems, how you create your applications. So from 2007, this was quite a thing.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, one of my favorites. Cloud computing started 2010, and also Bitcoin, the first transaction. It's not a micro transaction, but it was 10,000 Bitcoins for a pizza of $25, which actually is like $90 million right now. And if you ask after the presentation, it could be 100 million or it could be 60 million. So it's a volatile coin. But in 2010, the first transaction was made and the pizza was bought.
And around that time, iOS and Android were released and started taking over the world, and game developers also started developing for those, targeting those platforms, seeing that it's a huge untapped market that they really want a slice of.
Yeah, and now you see the influence. Oh, you could take the VR first.
Yeah, and then in 2012, Oculus Rift was kickstarted, which actually brought VR to the consumer for everybody to use. Well, not yet. It was kickstarted. It took some years until they released it. But this is when the VR hype started happening, and well, you can see it upstairs. So many booths with VR headset, HoloLenses. It's still ongoing.
And if you look at 2013, Docker was released. That has a huge impact on the software engineering and the releasing process of software, but also on the gaming industry, which Alex will talk about a bit later on memory lane. And in conclusion to that, in 2014, Kubernetes was released. Way earlier, Google used it internally, but in 2014 it was released to the masses, and microservices were defined by our friends of ThoughtWorks.
Yeah. And then maybe a term that will bring shivers to the spine of gamers, but in the middle of the 2010s, games as a service becomes popularized. Every game developer is hunting for a game that they can sell as a service, that they can keep in maintenance mode and earn money out of it. And that is also because Kubernetes, Docker, such technologies are becoming bigger and bigger and more standardized.
Yeah, that brings us to almost nowadays, but in 2016, IBM created quantum computing and made it available in the cloud. Not in 2016, but he made it available in the cloud. Yeah. And it's something that is influencing the way software engineering is going to behave in the near future. That's at least what I think, and also has a huge impact on gaming industry, right?
Yeah, because it can really solve highly parallelized tasks very well. And that is something that happens a lot, or it's needed a lot within games and game development. So in 2019, that was showcased by rebuilding Minecraft using exclusively quantum computing.
So
that was the trip down the memory lane. We have a little bit of time to catch up to.
Yeah. So let's
go to the performance first mindset, right?
Let's play some games.
Yeah. So what we're gonna do is now we're gonna play a couple of mini games.
He's the gamer, so bear with me.
Yeah. And we're going to play some mini games that kind of represent what we're trying to tell, and we're going to say what we think, what kind of habit software engineers can learn from it. So every line of code you write has a certain impact on performance, right? But what that is, you really need to know what happens underwater. So can you look between the lines?
Yeah, and of course, from software engineering perspective, we are all focusing on good code, quality code, high quality code, and readable code. I went to a session this morning that emphasized the readability of the code, not only for the developers, but also people who are less fortunate to not see the code at all. So it's very important to look to the code and make it readable and maintainable, but do you also look at it from a performance perspective? So every line of code you write, do you look on, say, what's the effect of the performance?
I mean, good question is, do you know what the Stream API does underwater? for example, right?
Yeah.
Or when you copy something from Stack Overflow, because some people of us might do that. Do you know what you're actually copying? You know, things like that. And game engineers, let's cross.
Yeah, let's make the jump.
So there's one side that you can see which ones you're supposed to to stand on, and which not. And if you really look between the lines, you'll be able to see which one that is.
And we also thematized this
a little bit.
Game a bit. So and Alex made some fail safes for me. So
yeah, if you're developing a game for a casual player,
yeah, meaning old player. Sorry.
You need to make sure he'll be able to not die. But so game developers are really trained to always work on a performance budget. So every line of code they write, they always think, okay, what kind of performance impact is this line of code going to have on the rest of my application? Is it going to completely decimate my frame rates? Because gamers are very demanding. If it doesn't have 60 frames per second, etc., 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 then it's a crappy game. So they really focus on this kind of things.
It must be a seamless experience, right?
Yeah.
So let's make the crossing. I made that one.
And now it would be funny if I did it just as bad as you.
That would be funny, because I'm just doing something.
I think this one.
Oh, yeah, almost on the line.
All right.
Yeah.
And then we can see, I'm on you that?
Yeah, that's good. So what's okay.
And this is the moment where your product owner comes to you and says, okay, the application is going slowly. Can you make some user stories for this? And then user stories come up like fixed performance, profile, hire a third-party external bureau to check the performance and give us advice, all these kind of things. And then you have to retroactively go and search up how to fix up your performance and things like that.
Yeah.
And that is something game developers really try to avoid. That moment, they always everything they commit has to be at the highest performance possible.
Yeah. So looking at this habit, so concluding this habit would be like looking at every line of code and knowing what effect it has on the performance, and taking that mindset to every line of code you code.
Yeah. All right, now we can go to the next one, which is
agility.
Agility, agile development. Anybody here that isn't using Scrum? Waterfall? Kanban. Oh, that's good. But maybe a good question is, anybody here that uses Scrum but doesn't use Scrum? Right, everybody has heard
Water Scrum, right?
Water Scrum, right?
Water Scrum, no waterboarding, but Water Scrum.
Water Scrum, exactly. So everybody has heard the stories of being in a project where everything needs to be Scrum, but everything is predefined the second the project starts and all the users are already made, and you start making.
And delivery date is known, and what is supposed to be delivered is also.
All right, so the guide says, well, everybody knows what agile development is, but few people truly develop in agile way nowadays. So the left course will represent game project sprint, and the right course will represent software engineering.
Yeah, because in software engineering you have those routines that we before a sprint we know. We look at user stories, we do some planning poker, we do estimation with it, and predefine our stories and take in our sprint what we can do. Of course, there are obstacles there, but the obstacles are, can be overseen. So what you need to be aware of is that within software engineering, you need to know the right stories to take into a sprint. Ooh, yeah, okay, got it. But there are a lot of processes out there to help you do that. And how's that in gaming, Alex?
In game development, it's a little bit different.
Will be hot on the side of the wall.
It's very hot. There are a lot of obstacles in a game development sprint. Think about Q&A testers, which are continuously testing your game, coming up with bugs, which you have to immediately solve because they are absolutely game-breaking, things like that. Or think about 12 in the morning you pick up a user story. Oh, nicely dodged. In the morning you pick up a user story. In the 12 o'clock, the game designers go in the room and they have this beautiful, wonderful idea, and you have to wait. This wonderful idea, they come out and they say, yeah, we're going to do things differently. What you are building now is absolutely not necessary anymore. We're just going to do this and this and this, and then you can practically start on a whole new user story in the middle of the day.
Yeah. Of course, we need to wait as well.
Yeah, which is kind of unheard of, right? In software engineering, things like that.
It's not at extreme. Of course, it's you have that with product owners and shifting priorities, but also you have a process and a Scrum Master or a product owner that helps you facilitate that.
Yeah, and but the effect this has on game developers is they always tend to be prepared for that moment where they can throw away their work, and they're not afraid to throw away their work. So if they're busy on a user story and then they write, let's say, 1,000 lines of code for that user story, implement it, and then the game designer says, okay, this is not what we're going to do anymore, they'll just see what they can salvage out of it, reuse it when possible. So they tend to create a lot of reusable components as much as they can. And then they just gonna throw away the rest, and then you're gonna have one of those beautiful commits where a lot of lines of code are being deleted, but not necessarily refactoring. And they don't mind, and that's basically the
that's basically the takeaway. So embrace the change and not be as strict as just sticking to the backlog or the sprint.
Exactly. And then we're gonna be talking about full stack.
Let's talk about full stack.
Are we gonna take this?
We're gonna take the shortcut.
Okay, we're gonna take the shortcut.
Ooh, I made a jump.
Let's see if I can take the shortcut.
Yeah, Alex, he created especially for me. So,
if you're developing something like this, you need a lot of shortcuts to places. Do we have any full stack people here?
T-shaped, comb-shaped, maybe.
Comb-shaped. Oh.
T-shaped, comb-shaped, any shape. Software engineers, of course, are familiar with those terms, and comb-shaped, T-shaped are terms for that. When a comb-shaped, you know a lot about a lot of things, but not into the depth. T-shaped has one specific technology that you are really expert in, and also some areas that you are aware of but not an expert in. So we have that is software engineering. Alex, what does game development do?
Well, game development is a specialist, especially in indie game developers, are scarce, so to say. They all embrace all the technologies they need to be able to make a game, right? So we're going to try to find these technologies.
Yeah, they're treasures, right? Technologies and capabilities are treasures.
Because having knowledge about a lot of things can be very handy when, understanding people's struggles.
Yeah, looking at front end, I think looking at the game, it must be in game development, but also from software engineering perspective, front end technology is an important part of our day-to-day work.
Okay, you can focus to make the jump.
Okay, sorry.
You can go.
Yeah, I made it.
There we go.
Yeah, thank you.
It has like a 90% failure rate, so.
This is the 10%.
So then we have
UX UI, yeah,
UX,
of course. We love to do.
Exactly.
We love to know what our users how to use the application, and that it's really valuable. And
I think
where
we
go.
Can jump down here.
Okay.
There we go. It's like we know exactly where we need to go, right?
Yeah. The game shifted every time we play it.
Then we have graphics programming, and this is typically something already game developers typically do a lot more than software engineers. Use the GPU, right? Dive into shader languages, DirectX, etc., to use the GPU for those tricky calculations that normally cost a lot of processing power.
I know. I use the GPU, but it's for Bitcoin mining.
And the gamers hate you for it.
I know.
Another tricky jump for you? You're on fire today.
I'm on fire today.
Okay, then we have, I think this one should be writing. Yeah, and I'm not talking about writing user stories.
No user stories, okay.
Dialogue, like the dialogue of guide. Somebody had
to write the guide.
Somebody, well.
Oh, I missed that jump, okay.
Good.
Was not perfect. So you're getting a bit broader.
Yeah.
Hindsight.
So this is what game developers are typically more broad.
Okay, let's move over here.
And broad and not extremely specialized. But what this means is when a new technology comes around, or a new, not necessarily new technology like Quarkus or another framework, but more of backend or animation in this example.
Yeah, backend is something we both know. A game engine is a backend, and
or
all of our applications
3D animation, like the mocap animation we did for here.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They're very open to embracing it. They immediately try to embrace it. They immediately try to not learn it, but to understand it. So, and when they understand it, for example, texturing.
Texturing, yeah, I'm not doing anything with texturing.
Yeah, for when you understand texture, then you can open Photoshop, then you can quickly set up some easy textures to create the crystals we did here, for example, or the textures for this beautiful chest,
you can be in,
or the particle effects. And then we have things like infrastructure, which is both very interesting.
Yeah, because you want to know where your application or your game is running on, so you know what performance you can expect. But you're getting a lot more than me. That's not fair.
But it's not about it's not about the amount, right?
No.
It's about, for example, 3D modeling, which is your favorite. It's about just being open to it and being ready to, you know,
embracing new technologies,
embracing it
and new techniques. Because creating the game, Alex is of course the game developer over here. I almost made that one. But to create that game, I want it to be useful as well. So, yeah, I almost made it. You see, I try my best. But 3D modeling is something that I learned for creating this game, and it's something that I didn't know before. And it was very challenging, but it was very satisfying to know it and to use it and to contribute in the right way to helping the game.
And then we have the audio.
The audio, yeah.
Which we do not have here because.
No.
It was maybe,
no,
but
yeah.
we are the audio, right?
We are the audio. So if there was any audio in there, that would have backfired. So, concluding, that would be very good to embrace more the technologies than you're currently working with.
Well, being open
to it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That is, and it's typically something you hear a lot. Like, I don't want to touch JavaScript, or I'm not interested in touching JavaScript. And then
no, I'm not interested in touching Drafts. Yeah.
The question is, why not, right?
Everybody knows it here, except Auke.
And then we have your favorite, so the requirements puzzle, where you made the 3D models for.
Yeah, I made the 3D models, but let's.
So collecting requirements for good stories is a hard puzzle, and some companies or some teams even have requirement engineers dedicated to this full time. Anybody using requirements engineers or being a requirement engineer? But what happens when some requirements simply undefinable?
What requirements could be undefinable?
That's something the game industry struggles a lot, but so this would represent a user story?
Yeah, user story for per se. In software engineering, of course, you need to puzzle to find the right requirements, but the puzzle is quite clear, right? You see where this puzzle is going to, and you know where the pieces should land, but it's still a puzzle, and you need to know and to define your functionality and how to create the optimal result and how to create the end result. You see that Alex is much more capable of doing this than me, but
no, you're pushing it away.
Oh, sorry. And again,
but exactly. So, well, it's still not necessarily easy to gather requirements. It's still a puzzle. It's doable. I think that's the message here.
Shall speed race this one?
All right.
If we could do that in our daily job, that would be great, right?
And now we're going to game development user story. So. And game development has a very big problem, and that's also one of the huge problems why a lot of games go out of budget, out of time, or they are scrapped literally 3 months before release, things like that. Games have to define fun in their user stories. What is fun, right? They're continuously hunting for fun. Which makes user stories very hard to define. How do you define fun? You can just write acceptance criteria. Okay, after this the game is fun, because fun is different for everybody. Some people, for example, like puzzling.
Puzzling is fun if you know where the puzzle pieces were going.
And when you have a button to just skip everything, right?
Yeah, that's the best button out there.
And sometimes. You think you have fun, but you don't. In the end, you don't, and then you have to go and rethink your user stories, things like that, which makes it a very tricky process. Which also, really hampers your efficiency.
Yeah. So you know where the puzzle is going, but it's kind of difficult to get it. So shall we?
Does anybody know what we're building here?
Lord of the Rings, yeah.
The phrase of Frodo was way too easy. I should have used another image. But yeah, it is Lord of the Rings, right? But the effect this has on game developers, right, is that there's a lot of room for interpretation in the user stories. And I know that might seem sound scary or sound wrong. I mean, you don't want room for interpretation in user stories, but it leaves room for creativity. So game developers pick up a vague user story and they go creative with it. They just try things out, trial and error, over and over again.
And that's where they go over budget, of course.
Exactly. And that is also the way they create fun with our user stories.
But also from learning from our from software engineering perspective, there could be more efficiency in game development because,
of course,
if you see how many times a budget of a game is going over its budget, that do you know any games who are on budget?
Well, I know some games that have been on budget.
This one.
Well, Grand Theft Auto 5 was on budget. It had a budget of 500 million, but it was still on budget.
Okay.
But there are a lot of stories of games that went completely over budget or been scrapped, like No Man's Sky is a popular one. Anthem is also a very popular one. Of games that completely flopped, hundreds of millions of dollars. But yeah, so game developers, to summarize, right? Game developers work with vague user stories. They don't mind working with vague user stories because they can let loose their creativity on what they need to be making. And that is something also the business behind games appreciates.
So let's move back to our hallway. There should be one. Oh, fun.
Fun.
Having fun.
Having fun.
That's a ball, right?
That is a ball, and I think since you're so slow, I'm gonna go ahead and score before you.
No, you can't.
Oh.
So fun. What is fun? Alex said it in his. Oh, I cannot score. His presentation. It's difficult to define fun, but we created this game. That's fun.
That was fun.
We created fun facts in this.
Playing this is fun.
Playing this is fun. Yeah.
Putting the Easter eggs in was fun.
Yeah.
And that's it, right? If you want to create fun as a game developer, you need to have fun. You need to be hunting for fun.
Yeah, we need to. We're not talking about ping pong tables, table football, anything.
Well, very nice if you have consoles, Xboxes, etc. in your office, of course. But not necessarily what I'm talking about. It's, for example, putting Easter eggs in your code for other programmers to find. Why not?
Or the audience to find.
Or the audience to find. Or putting nice commit messages, funny commit messages, to bring a smile on your co-worker's face when they read it, which really just creates a nice environment to work in.
And it's something that, in looking at software engineering perspective, it's not common to create an Easter egg in an application. But I think every application should have an Easter egg. That should be fun and describe the pride of the work and the fun that you had in it, and maybe a picture with funny faces or something like that that you only know how to reach. But there should be a user story in there to create an Easter egg.
Or just create it. Don't
or just create it. Yeah, don't create a user story. and at least do the funny commit messages.
I think a lot of users are going to love you for it if they open up the application and they scroll around and suddenly they do something weird and they see Dungeons and Dragons or something, or maybe not a license image of something in there. I think they're going to love it.
So there are licensed images in here then?
Well, yes, but that's why this is not an open...
I see pictures being taken.
Let's go. Let's not think too much about it.
Hey, the door is green now.
The door is green. As people might have noticed, it was red. So I think we are almost at the end of our journey here. So it should open. Oh, thank God.
It did.
So I think we can ascend the stairs of conclusion.
Yeah, let's walk on this epic slow.
Epically slow. It does miss a little bit of epic music on the background.
Yeah, this would be the only part of the game that would have benefit a lot from epic music. But yeah. What we're trying to talk about with this game is that, try to embrace some habits that are, from software engineering perspective, that game developers know how to utilize and be more open to, but also from game development perspective, be more aware of the habits out there within software engineering that you could benefit a lot from. Yeah,
and it's not about right or wrong, right? So there could be also a talk. What can game developers learn from software engineers? For example, unit testing for starters. But it's about just cross-contamination. And And if you heard something today and you're like, okay, that sounds like fun, I want to try this out, don't go tomorrow to work and say, okay, no acceptance criteria anymore in our user stories. And baby steps. There are habits that have been built over time. So just next time a hard user story comes along that you have trouble defining, say, we'll just try it like this and see where we go, and see what happens. Or maybe next time you write a dynamically sized list, say, well, maybe I should create a fixed sized list out of this.
Yeah, and if your front-end developer is on a holiday, don't park all the Angular and JavaScript stories on the lower priority on the backlog, but embrace the other stories and try to get out of your comfort zone a bit more, and try to learn and have fun with learning it.
Yeah, because we have a fun job, right?
We have a great job.
So it's not necessary to always try to be super serious with everything we're creating.
Ooh, now it becomes really epic.
Yeah, then we move up the great altar of fire and doom. Or something?
There's fire, but there are no fireworks.
I mean, there's a circle, you could say. And of course, every game or almost every presentation I've given, I've tried to incorporate explosions somehow in there. So, well, I mean, this one was very easy.
Yeah. We have fireworks, but no explosions, no sound, so no audio. Okay, that's good.
No.
No.
So yeah, I think that is a little bit what we want to talk about.
Yeah, we still have 4 minutes for questions, I see on the timer.
I think 9 minutes even.
9?
Yeah, I think so. So thank you.
Yes, I see.
And yeah, we're open for questions. And again, everything you see, all animations with a mocap suit.
Absolutely.
All right, questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
If you can help me, I work at the bank, I do calculations.
Yeah.
I'm a backender.
Yeah.
How the hell am I supposed to get funny stuff?
I mean, it can also be in your commit messages, right? Or in the code directly.
I don't think it's good to shift the amount of money over to some bank accounts and shift it all over there. I think you should do that. Yeah, that would be a lot. Yeah, you should look at simple things. Yeah, you could do it in the commit messages or in package names, maybe, for example, or yeah, how a banking system. Yeah.
That's a good question.
I don't know.
No, but of course, right? It's not, as I said, it's not necessarily going back tomorrow to work and immediately trying to put Easter eggs left and right, things like that. It's about understanding that if you see the opportunity arise, you know your team probably, you know what other people in your team like, and if you see the opportunity to put something funny in as a code comment in the code that you know somebody will see, go ahead with it, and it's probably gonna find very fun.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. There we go.
I think there was a question over there. Yeah.
I wish, man. I wish. No, we have profilers. You know, game developers have profilers like software engineers have, which can go pretty deep. That might be a little bit more extensive even than the typical software engineering traditional profiler. But in the end, the profiler is going to tell you somewhere in this method something goes wrong, and then you're going to look at it as a developer, and you'll need to be able to identify what is going wrong in that method, right? Why is it allocating a lot of memory, or why is my why is my memory going completely out of bounds and things like that. So it really comes out of experience, knowledge, and just basically every time you copy paste something from Stack Overflow, asking yourself, okay, what am I copy pasting right now, and what does this really do? And once you once you have that habit down of just asking what you're writing, it's going to be like second nature at some point. Yeah. Any other more questions?
Yeah. So, as you pointed out yourself, there is quite some pressure from game developers. Could you maybe point out a little bit what the difference is between the game development culture and software development culture in terms of the culture pressure to take some time from you by psychology, perhaps?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe for the people in the back, the question was, what's the difference in culture and pressure on the developer to actually be on time, on budget, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That is actually one of the reasons that me, myself, don't really want to go into the game industry, is that continuously crunch, that is the game industry is infamous for, right? Working long hours, putting your soul into a game, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's not necessarily something I enjoy, and it is something you see a lot in the game industry and in the game culture.
Yeah, a lot of people get burned down a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily a nice thing. It's also because a lot of game companies are in the United States and they're not allowed to unionize, and they don't have the the same rules as we have in the Netherlands or in Europe, better said. So there is a huge culture of you are blessed to be able to work in the game industry, and because you're blessed to be able to do this, you need to put your heart and soul in it. So that is a very negative part of the game industry. But on the other side, what that does mean is the people that work there, game developers, they really enjoy the product they're working on, right? And they do put their heart and soul into it, especially indie game developers. There are countless stories of people that just dropped everything, their software engineering job to work on a game and released it, and then Minecraft. So yeah, that is a little bit and I'm not saying software engineers don't really enjoy what they're doing, but the stories over at the game development side are much more prominent and widely known.
I think the culture within the company is a bit more healthy within software industry.
Definitely.
Definitely. Yeah. Because when you're working towards a crunch date, the crunch date must be made.
Yeah.
And I see in the back I saw, yes.
That's a good question.
That's a good question.
So Erik here was my Q&A-er, so to say, and the 3D modeler for the puzzles.
Yeah.
And we heard roughly 4 weeks ago that,
a bit less, I think.
Yeah, that we were accepted, and I've been working every evening on it since then, basically. So, thank you.
And it was a really fun fact because we had this idea in our head and we did not know that we're going to make a game, and then we got accepted, and that's what we're going to do. If we're going to make a game, there's going to be much more. Yeah, it's going to be different. It's going to be slightly different, but that's a joke we made a lot of times. But yeah, it was really fun to work together with Alex on this game, and of course 3D modeling. I made a few hours of mistakes and threw everything away, and you start something and you don't know what you're starting and you don't know what you're beginning in for yourself. But yeah, you try to make the best of it, do a lot of Googling, do a lot of YouTube watching, and actually when it worked, it was extremely satisfying for me to actually deliver Alex a zip file. I could not commit to Unity because that's very different. I
forbid him to commit anything.
In Git, Unity and Git is very very fragile, so that's not the good part. So I delivered the 3D models, and once they were in the game, that was amazing for me to see that it actually worked.
Yeah, and for me, it's just fun to work on something like this, and it was very fun to work on to give the presentation like this for us, and we kind of hope you guys had as much fun following the presentation as we had giving it.
But most of the time we're in the dances, right?
Yes, the mock-up suit,
before the green screen, so.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I saw. Yeah. I think he is.
No.
Do you recognize what is being danced? Thriller.
The Thriller dance.
Yeah, it's one of the Easter eggs, right?
Anybody that saw any other Easter eggs? Dota 2, the Finnish flag?
Oh,
Almost.
Alexander Chatzizacharias.
It was a Greek flag.
Greek
I
flag.
think. It's okay.
Formula 1, yeah, that's
Formula
my
1.
favorite sport.
Dungeons and Dragons banner.
Half-Life, my
Half-Life.
game.
Yeah, they spot them all. Anything else? Power Metal.
Squid Game,
yeah.
yeah.
Lord of the Rings, yeah.
Did you see?
Do you like Hello Kitty?
A lot.
That was the flag of Ajax. Yeah, I put it extra small because.
Okay, sorry, it's a flag of Ajax.
Sorry?
La Casa de Papel, yeah, my favorite.
And there is only one left I haven't heard yet.
It was my music, right?
That is your music?
Yeah,
Ah,
that's true.
yeah, it's Kingston.
Kensington.
Oh, Kingston.
Kingston.
Oh, sorry.
Jesus, guys.
All right, so
Any other questions? I think, I don't know if we have any time.
if we're going to get kicked out, but
we're standing between you guys and beer and bitter balls.
yeah,
so
there is a
yes.
question.
Sorry?
What we use to create the 3D
Blender.
models?
What was
Blender.
used to create the 3D models was the question. I used Blender for it.
It's open source free.
Yeah.
You can just pick it up and try with it.
And
if you
Blender
want.
could do everything, and that's basically also the problem of Blender, because if you want to do one thing, then you need to know a lot before you get results. But it's fun, and it's a new hobby of me.
All right. So yeah, thank you. That was it, I think.